All right, so this is going to sound a little crazy, but hear me out. So I live in Washington State, right where a whole bunch of flooding is happening right now. And although it's not um, as much of a surprise over on the wet side of the state, it is a surprise to a lot of the people over here in the desert that roads are collapsing and there's so much water that's coming out of the mountains uh, and stuff that is causing a lot of damage. Right, people are being evacuated from their homes. There's entire cities that are being evacuated, thousands and thousands of people. What we what we need to understand is that um, the problems we're experiencing is due to the gross mismanagement of our public lands. Our conservation districts have been expediting the water from the mountains, out of the mountains, into creeks and rivers for like almost like 80 years. That's what their goal has been, is to straighten out the meandering creeks and rivers to align with modern infrastructure going in, roads, to minimize the number of bridges that would be necessary to install, right? Because bridges are more expensive to install than just a flat spot on the ground. The problem is that when we do the math, because math is no bullshit, every acre of water or every acre of land and every inch of water that falls on it is 27,154 gallons, right? Okay. And you can look that up if you want. 1 acre, 1 inch of water, how much? And there's this miraculous tool that everybody has in their pocket and that I'm filming this video on right now that can affirm that. What happens when we get several inches of water is that compounds, right? And then because there's more than 1 acre involved, that compounds exponentially. And so what we have is we have an abundance of water, but it's happening in short bursts, and it's being released from the land because the land has been shaped more like a shingle than a sponge. But in permaculture, we don't learn from a university unless you go to Oregon State University, which has the beavers, and like a guy named Andrew Millison has a fantastic class there. But most of the university isn't teaching these conservation principles that the beaver teaches us, right? The beaver creates catchment catchment basins, basically, all the way through an eroded landscape to make everything thrive, right? Because when the landscape is hydrated, everything thrives. When the landscape is hydrated, we reduce fire, we reduce flooding, erosion, drought, and famine. We increase the animal populations in the forest by the abundance of food that can grow, right? When the water is being managed appropriately. And I'm working with my ministry to do this on a large scale out in the desert steppe of the Cascade, the foothills of the Cascade Mountains. And so the area behind my project is several hundred acres, right? And all of that is on about a 10 to 12 or more percent grade. That when that water falls on the land and it starts running by, I used to watch a creek flow past my house for about a week and a half that was just raging. And I said, "Wow, that's a lot of water." And so I started doing something about it because I've learned from the beaver, right? And the ecology department was like, "Whoa, what are you doing?" And so I showed the ecology department what I'm doing, and the representative was like, "Wow, this is amazing. This is the government would have spent millions of dollars to accomplish what you've done." I said, "I know. I worked for the government in civil engineering for 9 years, and I saw the inefficiency, and I saw that the trend of what we're doing now is just what we've been doing. And instead of what we've been doing, working towards the benefits, it's been working towards a detriment. And it's been working towards a dehydration of our landscape. It's been working towards um, a lot of things that are not something that you would find value in." So through an intentionally designed landscape, I am now catching, spreading out, and allowing millions of gallons of water to soak in instead of just run away. And when that water was running away, it was carrying the silt with it. And the silt is what holds the sand together and allows the bunch grasses and the sagebrush to still grow. When that silt washes away the soil, it's left as a barren landscape, right? And that barren landscape doesn't support much life. When I first moved onto my property, I saw animals sometimes here and there, maybe a couple little squirrels or ground burrowing animals and stuff. But now that with the improvements that I've made and the areas that I've created, well, I didn't really create it. It was already there, but I just manipulated it in a way that it works to reduce fire, flood, erosion, drought, and famine. And now I've got tons of animals. And I got birds regularly visiting the property, and I've got lots of squirrels and rabbits and just all sorts of animals. So I guess what I'm saying is I'm thankful for the abundance of water that we're experiencing, even though it's causing some catastrophic events, because hopefully it's going to raise awareness to that we have solutions to these problems. We just need to put our energy towards them. And when we put our energy in mass, imagine what 7 billion people on this planet could do if we were each giving an hour a day towards things that matter, right? There's huge projects happening in Saudi Arabia and in India and China and Jordan, the deserts of Jordan. The deserts of Jordan, they get, I think, 1 inch less of rain annually than what we get here in Yakima County. They're growing food, right? They're growing food, and so can we. And Yakima Valley is an agricultural area, but they've relied heavily upon irrigation. And even the farmers that are out in the East Valley, their wells are drying up because the water that falls on their land leaves their land. They don't have adequate catch basins to be able to soak that water into the aquifer. And when we start putting water into the ground, the aquifer becomes recharged to a point that that the wells aren't going to dry up. And when we improve the hillsides in the surrounding areas through the mountains, we're holding water up high where it belongs, like the beaver knows how to do. And when we do that, we're charging the aquifer or the soil, the substrate of the mountain in a way that then it begins to push out artesian wells or springs, like natural springs. They're leaking, right? But the way that happens for us is now the water has soaked all the way into the ground where it can be stabilized in temperature. Roughly the 55 to 57 degrees is the subsurface temperature. It flows out of the ground, a nice cool water. It's not picking up the heat off the surface and carrying that. It's grabbing the subsurface temperature and bringing that to the surface. Then it trickles into streams and rivers and off to the ocean consistently instead of in floods. I've been working on this for a long time. I've been yelling, screaming about this for a long time. But it seems that until people experience pain and discomfort, they don't desire to implement change. But we can. We can make this flooding and the erosion and the drought all a part of his story. But we have to start doing something about it. We can't rely on these government agencies that are just doing what they've always done as they've been trained by university. The university is turning out a lot of things that aren't proving beneficial. Our nation is full of dis-ease, even though the doctors are being trained in university. There's more homeless people, even though engineers are being trained in university. There's a lot of things that are really easily solved problems that persist because people are not looking to the universe to solve the problems and how nature works naturally. And luckily, locally is how that happens, and that's happening everywhere for everyone. So when we do that, we can come to a point in time where the problems are of the past, right? And when the problems are of the past, they're no longer a problem that we're experiencing in the right now moment. So um, if you'd like to learn a little bit more about this, you can look at my YouTube channel that you're hopefully viewing right now, and you can see the projects and how different features installed on barren desert land can greatly improve the productivity and uh, abundance that's all around us. So thanks for watching. Please share this. Please, these are ideas that need to be shared globally, because everywhere we're facing these similar problems. People are moving into cities because there's no food available out in the forests. But the forests are capable of supporting so much more beyond straight grain timber for industries to make paper or 2x4s or whatever other products that are being made, with that. We also have to look at some of the superhero crops like hemp and bamboo that can provide fuel and food and resources for construction, medicine, all of these things that are available to us. We can build homes out of hempcrete, which are a carbon negative. Because when the hemp fibers are combined with the concrete, as it gets wet and dries out, the house becomes stronger and even less susceptible to fire, bugs, mold. It petrifies the hemp fibers. So anyway, I could just keep going on and on, but I've learned that 12 to 15 minutes is about all people are willing to listen to. So anyway, thanks for watching. Please subscribe, share this video, share the channel, share these ideas, and however you feel inclined to do so, because that's how we build a real evolution.